Hello, sports fans. Welcome to Super Sports Central. Today we have my Week 4 college football predictions. So last week I had a record of 21-2, which makes my overall record on the season to 58-9. So starting off this week, we have Kent State at Georgia. So Kent State's gotten destroyed by several top 10 teams, most recently Oklahoma a few weeks ago. But they've gotten destroyed by several top 10 teams dating all the way back to 2013. And Georgia is another top 10 team. They're actually ranked number 1. They're a dominant team, and they're going to have no problem defeating Kent State, as they will get the win here at 45-0. Moving on to Maryland at Michigan. So Michigan quarterback J.J. McCarthy is very inexperienced, because last year he played behind Cade McNamara, and this year he was battling Cade McNamara for the starting job. Finally won the starting job. But luckily for McCarthy, the Maryland secondary is not very good, so that should lead to offensive success for Michigan. But Maryland does have a good passing attack led by Taulia Tagovailoa to his brother. But I have Michigan getting the win here at 38-14. Next up, we have Central Michigan at Penn State. So Penn State's coming off a great win over Auburn. They should be pretty good this week, as Central Michigan's defense is terrible. They've allowed a ton of yards and a ton of points so far this season, and Penn State should get the easy win at 42-17. Next up, we have one of the better games this week, and that is Baylor visiting Iowa State. So two Big 12 opponents. It's actually going to be a defensive battle, as they're the two of the three best defenses in the Big 12. And I could definitely see Iowa State getting the upset here because they are home. The past three Baylor-Iowa State games have been decided by one score. I think this will be another one-score game. Very, very close game. Baylor gets the win on the road, 24-21. Next up, we have Rhode Island visiting Pitt. So Pitt did not play quarterback Kedon Slovis last week, and they still beat Western Michigan 34-13. Pitt could easily win this one without Slovis if they opted to sit him against an FCS opponent in Rhode Island. But Rhode Island does have a decent offense. They're going to score some points, but I have Pitt ending up with the easy win at 42-16. Moving on to another very tough game to predict, and that is Clemson visiting Wake Forest. So Clemson has a not great offense and an elite defense, whereas Wake Forest has a great offense and a okay defense. Clemson's offense does have a good rushing attack led by Will Shipley. I think Wake Forest will be able to score some points on the Clemson defense. But I do think Clemson will be able to score. But I could definitely see this game going either way, especially because it's in Wake Forest. But I'm going to go Clemson getting the extremely close win at 29-26. Next up, we have Texas Tech hosting Texas. So Texas Tech beat another Texas school in Houston a few weeks ago. I could see this game going either way. UTSA gave Texas a very tough game last week. Texas is also playing its first road game. Texas has won the last four against Texas Tech. And I think they're going to make it the last five as they get the win here at 38-27. Moving on, we have Middle Tennessee at Miami. So Miami's coming off a loss to Texas A&M where they only mustered 9 points. But Texas A&M does have a good defense. Miami was able to move the ball in that game. They were just not able to score. But I think Miami gets a good bounce-back win against an easy opponent in Middle Tennessee, as they're going to get the easy win at 42-7. Next up, we have another good game this week, and that is Florida visiting Tennessee. So the two SEC rivals. Florida's owned the series recently, winning 5 straight and 16 of the last 17. Florida needs a big game from quarterback Anthony Richardson, who had a great game against Utah and then has not had good games against USF and Kentucky. Tennessee comes in scoring 52 points a game, led by another great quarterback, highly efficient quarterback Hendon Hooker. This is also the first road game for Florida, and with Anthony Richardson not playing well as of late, I'm going to take Tennessee in a good close game, but Tennessee ends up getting the high-scoring win 37-29. Next, we have Washington State hosting Oregon. So Washington State is 3-0, including a win over Wisconsin. I feel like Washington State could definitely come out with the win here over Oregon. But Oregon's been pretty good after they destroyed Georgia. Were destroyed by Georgia in week 1, including easily beating BYU last week. I think this will be a close game, but Oregon just escapes with the victory 26-23. Up next, we have Tulsa visiting Ole Miss. So Ole Miss had a great start to start the season. They're averaging 45 points a game and only giving up 4.3 points per game. But then when you look at who they played Troy, Georgia Tech, and Central Arkansas. Tulsa's offense is pretty good, but their defense is bad. So I'm going to go with Ole Miss getting the 38-14 win. Moving on to Kentucky hosting Northern Illinois. So Kentucky has struggled to run the ball, and they need to run the ball. Last week they averaged less than 3 yards a carry against an FCS opponent in Youngstown State. Kentucky could definitely try to get the run game going this week, but if they can't, Will Levis, their quarterback, should be more than capable of leading them to the win, as Northern Illinois has a really bad secondary. Kentucky gets the win at 34-10. Next up, we have Arkansas against Texas A&M. So technically this game is a neutral site game, although it's in AT&T Stadium, which is in Dallas, technically Arlington. But this is really just a Texas A&M home game, even though it's not in their home stadium. So Texas A&M is a really confusing team. Their defense is good, but who knows what's going on with their offense. They have not a great rushing attack, and their passing game is better with Max Johnson at quarterback. It was terrible with Haynes King. But their offense is just a big question mark for me. Until they can show me they can do something. But the A&M defense should be able to slow down Arkansas and keep their rushing attack and quarterback KJ Jefferson in check. But in the end, I think Jefferson does enough to help Arkansas get the win, as Arkansas wins this one 24-20. Moving on to Vanderbilt at Alabama. So this game speaks for itself. I mean, it's Alabama against Vanderbilt. So Vanderbilt has not had success against Alabama recently, and they actually haven't played each other a whole lot, only 3 times in the last 15 years, even though they're both are in the SEC. Vanderbilt is having a good season for their standards so far, as they're 3-1. And I have them getting dominated by Alabama. Alabama wins this one extremely easily, 59-3. Up next, we have Ohio State hosting Wisconsin. So the Ohio State offense is unstoppable. They lead the nation in yards per play and yards per game, and are 10th in the country in points per game. Wisconsin is a team with a great run game and a great defense. I think the Wisconsin defense could slow down Ohio State, but not enough to get the win, as Ohio State's offense will still easily score some points. They're just too talented and too good, and Ohio State will end up on top with the win at 38-14. Next up, we got NC State hosting UConn. So this could be a trap game for NC State with Clemson on the schedule next. But if it's a trap game, it won't be a loss because, I mean, it's UConn. They're not a football school. UConn is coming off a loss to Michigan, where they got destroyed. I believe the score is 59-0. But I don't think this will be a trap game for NC State, as they're going to easily get the win at 52-0. Up next, we have a Big 12 game, and that is Kansas State at Oklahoma. So Oklahoma's offense is good as usual. Their defense is much improved under defensive mind Brent Venables. Kansas State has a dangerous dual threat running back in Deuce Vaughn, who's had great games against Oklahoma in the past. But as I mentioned, their defense is better, so they're going to be able to keep Vaughn in check, which will allow Oklahoma to win this game 37-20. Up next, we have Oregon State hosting USC. So I think this is going to be a good game. Both teams are 3-0, and the game's also at Oregon State. So I could definitely see Oregon State with the upset here. Both teams have good offenses, as we already know about USC's offense, led by Caleb Williams with Jordan Addison and others. The Oregon State offense has hit 34 points in all of their games so far, scoring 34, 35, and 68. I think they're going to score some points here, but I think USC will get the win here in an offensive showdown because neither teams have elite defenses. So USC wins this one in a high-scoring game, 44-33. Next game, we have Wyoming at BYU. So BYU is coming off a bad loss to Oregon, but they should bounce back in a big win over Wyoming. So BYU will get the win here, 42-10. Next up, we have some Pac-12 action, and that is Arizona State hosting Utah. So Arizona State fired Edwards this week. Their defense has been bad against Oklahoma State and Eastern Michigan. Utah's offense is much better than both of them. In fact, they scored over 70 points against Southern Utah, and I know Southern Utah's an FCS team, but that just goes to show how good Utah's offense is. But I have Utah getting the win here easily, 45-14. And the final game this week, we have Stanford visiting Washington. So Washington's coming off a big win over Michigan State. Stanford's run game is improving, but their defensively, their secondary isn't great, and Washington quarterback Michael Penix just threw for almost 400 yards against Michigan State, who also has a bad secondary. as I have Washington getting the win here 38-17. So those are my week 4 college football predictions. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, and comment. I do my best to post as often as possible. So make sure to go check out the community tab of my channel where you guys can vote on who you think will win some of this week's games. Also, let me know in the comments if you have a reason why you disagree with me or what you disagree with. So thank you guys for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, and comment. I do my best to post as often as possible, and I will see you in the next video.